Hello and welcome back to Rana. My name is Beast and it is half past 11 p.m. I've decided to start recording anyways. I have an issue. I have a problem. Why can't I finally beat the fucking story mode of this stupid ass game? I keep coming back. You know what? Hold on. Like I'm literally in the middle of fighting a fucking darkling bastard. I have to say, you know what? Fuck it. Fuck it. I'm gonna save scum this fight. Just because I am sick and tired of the fucking story mode. I just want to make sure that there's nothing to be unlocked after you beat the story mode. Could have just looked it up. I actually just could have just looked it up. Hello? I'm currently dying, apparently. Or is it? Oh, that's why. It's still using the controller. Anyways. He says that in a casual tone of voice, even though even though he's preparing for a duel.
こういうのはどうだろう。この戦いで僕が勝ったら、連城寺元団長は次の団長戦に出馬しない。代わりに僕が負ければ、団長戦などせず団長に戻る。わかりやすくていいだろう。
Damn it. Let me just. I'm trying this at least once.
負けるわけないって確信してるような条件じゃないですか。
そうでもないよ。勝負は水物だ。どちらに転ぶかなんてただやるなら同等の条件じゃないと。君が僕のことをどう思ってるかはわからないが、フェアにやりたいんだ。
Let's see if I'll fucking be able to beat the shit out of stupid ass darkling bastard. Alright, things are already looking bad. Because it didn't get the first. Okay, I'll keep trying after the recording. Why the fuck was the Nicholas not recharged? Mad. Well.
そういうの二枚舌って言うんですよ、先生。夜中に不意をついて議会を開催したり、裏で暗躍して自分の思い通りに操ろうとするのをフェアとは言わないんです。
これも見解の相違だね。僕たちは一度も騎士団憲章に反する行動はしていない。
その騎士団憲章を含めて騎士団そのものを改革したいんで。
Both seem to be ready. They've finished their war of words and quietly take their places. The invisible tension intensifies with the quiet.
準備はいいかな?
And this man is actually using a fucking longsword, huh? He smoothly draws his sword. His longsword gleams dimly in the light. Longsword though it may be, it's not especially long per se. It's only called long compared to a short sword, so it's actually a normal sword. Okay, shut the fuck up. It is still a long sword type sword. There is no sword type called normal sword. It's decide, is it a longer a short sword with a longer blade than normal, or is it a long sword with a shorter blade than normal? If it's a long sword with a shorter blade than normal, then shame on you. You are being a fucking idiot. It's the same as calling a Japanese katana sword long compared to a short sword. The blade itself is about 1 meter long. It's commonly held in one hand with a shield on the other, but he grips it with both. Then it makes even less sense that it's shorter. Like a longsword with a shorter blade would, if you were to use it, you would probably use it in sword and shield combat. If you want to use it with two hands, you'd want to like have it longer because you can expend to have that range. What the fuck?
とっくにできてます。
She draws their weapons as well. Her style of dual-wielding rapier and parrying dagger, however, her style is dual-wielding a rapier and a parrying dagger. However, her stance is reminiscent of kendo. That's stupid. Like, yes, kendo has stabs, but they are not as common as you would need for a fucking rapier. With a sword which is made for Thrustin, you know? Specific styles of swordsmanship use specific swords for a reason. They're designed to use those swords. And while, yes, you can stab with a katana, they are far more adept at slashing. Which, sure, you can slash with a rapier, but they are very specifically created for Thrustin. They are called a thrusting sword, after all. The first thing that comes to mind, seeing the other sword held with a rapier is a thin sword, probably due to the influence of games, when in fact it's quite long and broad. The weapon that Enjoji wields is a blade just short of 1 meter and I estimated just 2 or 3 centimeters less. That's not really that short compared to a normal katana or even Mr. Cookie's longsword. However, it has its own unique features with a guard attached to protect the wrist like a kendo gauntlet. The parrying dagger, on her other hand, is a blade half the length of the rapier and it is nearly twice as broad. Yeah, it needs to be broader because it actually needs to be able to parry blades properly without being bent. And watching her swing it around, it doesn't appear to be that heavy. It's modeled after a short sword, but it's clearly designed for defense without any lethal features apart from its point. No, they're both fake swords, so lethal is just a figure of speech.
初めて見たよ。レイピアとマンゴー種の二刀流か。さて、どう戦うかな?
He shows no sign of being worked up, remaining completely unflappable.
こっちもクキ先生が戦うところを見るのは初めてです。この点だけはフェアと言えなくもないですね。
She's on her guard with the main gouache in front and the rapier aloft. Sir, go all out on her! We'll cheer you on fully, you can do it! Naturally, the location has a distinct feel of an away match, and Georgie stands on guard with a mental fortitude that makes nothing of it. I'll be the referee, given how small the audience is. I'll be recording the duel in the interest of impartiality. I'm surprised you'd suggest recording it. Don't underestimate us, it's a precautionary measure, so you can't go complaining about the result afterwards. I taunt them in order to gauge their moves and mood. His response makes me prepared for more trouble than I'd anticipated. I have quite a lot of faith in Mr. Cookie. They wouldn't just have blind faith in him for him to be suggesting those terms. And Georgie, be careful, he's very skilled. I don't see her letting her guard down at all from her expression as she lightly waves a response. The refereeing Chevalier raises a hand. Once the tension has reached its highest point, he swiftly brings his hand down. Begin!
Huh?
The longsword swings around with a roaring sound. If it were a real weapon, its might would be enough to kill, and it plunges into the space in front of Renjoji's chest. She easily dodges it and brings her rapier to twist around Cookie's blade. She doesn't stop the blow, instead moving forward through brute strength. Whomp! The impact of his foot stomping is powerful enough to be felt where the spectators are. This time she plunges her parrying dagger towards Mr. Cookie's throat. He draws his longsword back without showing any loss of composure. Sparks fly and he stops at just centimeters from its target. But she must have anticipated that as she used the opening to weave her rapier through at his throat. It looks to be a lethal blow, but with just centimeters to go, Mr. Cookie uses his height to leap backwards. Unable to follow him from her stretched out stance, she takes a step back. They both take their stances once more.
間一髪だ。波のシュバリエなら今のでやられていただろうね。
She bites her lip in vexation. She must have been hoping to settle it with her first move. She actually moved without hesitation, having anticipated his movements. Her miscalculation was the difference in their reach. At his height of over 180 centimeters, by the time she slips through his incoming attack to get into striking range, he's already withdrawn. It's going to be surprisingly hard to overcome this discrepancy. I let out my breath and filled my lungs with air. It seems I've suddenly stopped breathing. Right from the outset, their attacks were so high level that it literally took my breath away. I don't know how this fight will play out. Then Georgie, stay calm and plan your attacks. Sir, your opponent's scared. Settle this now. He moves to attack once more after the encouragement. His slash from afar hits her precisely. Naturally, his sword motions are accurate and each blow is powerful. Each time she receives the blow with her parrying dagger, it pushes her back wholesale. There's nothing feeble about her build. She's only slightly shorter than I am and on the tall side for a woman. Yet he's pressing her back so easily. And Joji moves forward in time with his slash. She looks like she's about to intercept his attack, but then at the last moment moves her slender body like a feather. His longsword cleaves the thin air. He hastily adjusts his trajectory, and she parries it with her dagger. That's the first time he looks like to have left himself open. Her rapier comes down cleanly from above. He roars like a beast, and the Joji is flung backwards with a dull thud. What brute strength! Can't believe he slammed his shoulder into her and got out of that predicament through brute force. To be fair, what the fuck is he doing? The way they described it, she like went for something like this. Which, that's just a far worse movement than just... Like, she's actually just fighting as if it was a regular sword, based on the description. Like, yes, you can slash with a rapier. But I keep saying, it's made for Thrustin. But you won't let that beat her. Even though she shrieked, she leapt back on her own and minimized the damage. However, she's still struggling for a breath and steps back to put some distance between them. Anticipated from their stances, but despite the weapons they're using, they both move with kendo-like movements. They exchange strikes, their swords clash, they move apart to retake their stances and strike again. It's understandable, virtually all Western schools of sword fighting have disappeared. Not really, no. Hima's a thing. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck are the people who made this game talking about? Shit like Hima exists. Like Japan, they only exist for sports and martial arts. The dojos and videos you see on the internet these days are mostly recreations from German literature, and we don't even know if they're truly authentic. A lot of those are actually from literature. A lot of the thing about Hima is that they are actually looking through like fucking swordsmanship manuals from the Middle Ages. But that doesn't mean it's not an actual sword fighting style. And the number of places that teach Western sword fighting in Japan are few and far between. Under the circumstances, a Japanese person carrying something long will almost certainly use kendo techniques regardless of the type of weapon. They would know the movements from period dramas and anime, so they would naturally gravitate towards it. But yet their two styles are clearly distinct. I wanna find what the fuck are some of these writers talking about? At that point, just use a sword more suited to your style. Jesus. Like, I actually recently did see a video where a Kenjutsu practitioner, I think it was, I don't remember the specific school, but he was essentially like given a longsword, like a proper longsword, and was asked for his opinions. And one big problem he had was actually a big advantage of European longswords, namely the crossguard. Because a lot of strikes for kendo are like this. And he's like, he kept almost hitting himself with the crossguard. Anyways. Kuki uses his height to regularly attack from a distance. He greatly targets an unwanted position on his enemy, and when they're off balance, he strikes with all his might. It's a repulsive fighting style for his opponent, and if it were me, I would have fled from it long ago.
本当予想以上にやる。
そういう久喜先生も白金さんだってここまでやるかどうか。
On the other hand, Renjoji's characteristic feature is being a reactive fighter. She reads her opponent's attacks, blocks it to nullify its impact, and targets that moment to strike back. It's characteristic flowing movements of fighting with two swords. Unfortunately, I have to say they're a bad match for Mr. Kuki. Even if she moves skillfully after his strike, he dodges her attack with the difference in their reaches.
二つ名を持つシュバリエと同列に評してくれるのは嬉しいけど、本音を言えば戦うのは好きじゃなくてね。
そこだけは気が合いますね。疲れることは嫌いなんです。いい加減決着をつけたいくらいです。
Historically speaking, it was the Italian rapier sword style that brought about downfall of the German style. It's said that the Baroque nobility scorned the longsword as being out of date in the 17th century. But if you had any interest in kendo and martial arts, you'd know, and it's not confined to sword fighting. There are no superior schools. It simply comes down to difference in individual skill. They're both struggling for breath. Dots of sweat stain the floor. The battle is so fierce that the Order members and I are both watching in silence. It's just how close their skill levels are. But before I know it, it's been almost 10 minutes since they started crossing swords. They both have incredible stamina. That said, they must be close to their limits by now. No matter how much stamina a human boasts, they can't last long when moving at full strength. They stare at each other wordlessly and attack simultaneously. Their swords clash together in a full frontal attack. Renjoji has no chance in a direct battle of strength. As expected, her rapier is flung away. She takes that in stride and used the motion to spin herself around. She used the force of rotation to target Mr. Kuki's temporal region with her rapier. He leans over and a split second later the rapier passes where his head was. So close. However, he's now off balance. She slides her parrying dagger through the air with a piercing shout. She's got him. It's a perfect opportunity. I find myself getting excited. However, she suddenly stops in her tracks. Huh? Even though he was off balance, Kuki has managed to stick the tip of his longsword against Renjoji's throat. If she hadn't stopped moving, she would have plunged into it herself. A few seconds of complete silence fill the arena. It's as if the air failed to perform its task of transmitting sound. Duel over! The decision is mercilessly handed down. Victor Kuki Seishiro! The enemy camp erupts. He catches his breath, and although he strokes his hair, he's not haughty about his victory. He just accepts the results indifferently. On the other hand, Renjoji's long eyelashes tremble as she stands there silently. You got him, Mr. Kuki! Now we can protect the honor of the order! Now we don't have to leave the school, yes! We don't need to fear reformation any longer, yes! You know, now, this is the entire, like, discussion last part about, like, yes, you would never know how they feel. Obviously, the knights that have decided to go against her are the people that are only able to attend to school because of the subsidies they get from being knights. However, counterpoint. First off, the fucking fee to attend this school would get lower if the amount of benefits the Chevalier had weren't that big anyways. And secondly, that doesn't mean that they wouldn't be able to have part of their school fees paid for once they become Chevalier. After all, that still makes sense. They're still part of they're still part of a managing body at the school. So it would essentially be the same as a fucking scholarship. Which scholarships still happen in normal schools and people can attend them without, you know, having to cough up millions of dollars. Even the crowd of Chevalier around Mr. Kuki doesn't stop him remaining calm. He must be well educated as they all turn to bow to Renjoji as commanded. Of course, it's the comfort of being victors that allows them to. Renjoji... I approach her to speak, but she puts her hands over my mouth. She looks at me with lifeless eyes. It wasn't eerie at all. It actually makes me want to hug her. Her voice is devoid of emotion. It intentionally fades away. After a deathly silence, her parched lips move to speak. This means that she's lost the right to run in the election for captain. The next morning, a cold wind blows to mark the arrival of fall, which I'd forgotten was upon us till now. That said, it feels like a balmy autumn day, as there aren't any clouds and you can feel the direct sunlight. And yet, the reason the whole town looks grey is because of the gloominess in my soul affecting my outlook. Perhaps the hushed gossip I heard earlier has something to do with it. Hey, did you hear? Yeah, Captain Old Joji lost in a duel. This guarantees the Conservatives will win. Man, I had my hopes on her. I hope the number of oppressive Chevalier doesn't increase. Apparently the whole school knows about the duel. Speak to Momoka, unable to stomach any further. I know that. I don't think those Chevalier were spreading it with malicious intent. Even if it doesn't happen, the outcome would be public, as Momoka said. I could tell how much attention it received because it spread so quickly. Even though it should be someone else's problem, it's stressing me out. Then I sense movement in the air. I turn around and see Renjoji making her way to school. The crowd of people around her moves away. They're clearly treating her like a blemish, but I don't know how to approach her either. Renjoji? I'm relieved that she's the one to speak first. After the duel, she said nothing. I couldn't even bring myself to see her off. Captain! I should say something. I move to speak, but a knight interrupts me. Captain, what's the meaning of this? Please explain! Is it true you dueled and lost? And that you even agreed to not run for the captain-elect. Why did you do such a thing? She smiles back apologetically. Sure, that's not true. Tell me it's not true, please. They probably don't mean it themselves, but each word sounds like they're blaming her. Is it just my imagination, or does she look like she's bleeding from invisible wounds? They did say summon fair again this time, right? How else would you be having a duel that late in the night? That's just bizarre! All the pressing questions from the knights don't faze her at all, but I can see her eyelashes slightly trembling. Her cheeks become tense and all expression gradually disappears. Cold and emotionless features like a marble statue form on her face. Can't stand to see it and force myself into the crowd. And Joji, this way! Come on, just give me your hand. She's startled but timidly holds out her pale white hand. I squeeze her hand and her whole slender arm trembles. I urge her strongly to reassure her. We're running. I hear a startled voice behind me as I address Momoka. Momoka, sever all communications for a moment. Should that happen, just message her and say I'll get back to her soon. I don't know why I had this fucking weird twitch there. Thanks. We're skipping classes. It'd be much healthier to hang out in this lovely sun. Nothing wrong with that every so often. But she shows no sign of trying to shake me off. We run in the opposite direction to the students heading to school and break into a full dash. She catches a breath and her gloomy expression disappears as she breaks into a laugh. Sorry for making you skip class. I hope it doesn't blemish your record too much. She smiles like an older sister would to her little brother. A date? My cheeks flush. She says that cheekily and pokes her tongue out. This was the only place I could think of. If there's somewhere you'd like to go, I'll gladly listen. I forced down my embarrassment and put on a brave face. Really? I'm relieved for some reason seeing her smile wryly. I prompt her to sit on the bench before I find the true meaning of that emotion. I thought so. That's why I acted on an impulse. Though I had to help you, I also thought I was overstepping the mark, but I still felt that I had to. She gives me a hazy smile, but it only lasts for an instant. Suddenly tears appear in her eyes. She wipes her face hastily. She doesn't make it in time, and the transparent drops run down her cheeks. And Georgie. I'm not sure what to do. If I know it, my arms are flailing wildly in the air, and it makes her smile through the tears. I nod without thinking. She then rests her chin against me with a soft thud. Her muffled cries echo directly into my chest. Before I know it, I find myself embracing her around the shoulder. It's fine. She slowly pulls away from me. I'm sad, but at the same time more relieved than anything else. She washes her face in a nearby sink. I offer her a handkerchief, which she sadly wipes her face with. She has a refreshed look on her face now. She slips her handkerchief into her pocket before I can say she doesn't need to.
泣いたらすっきりしたわ。気持ちを溜め込むのって良くないわね。
Catharsis! She doesn't seem to be trying to cover up her embarrassment, but she's back to her usual self. You seem to be okay now. Thank goodness.
心配かけてごめんね。私、自分が思う以上に脆かったのね。
What are you talking about? You've been incredibly strong till now, yesterday included. She nods with a bit of smile. Silence follows. Look out at the sparsely populated park since she seems to need time. All I can do is sit next to her in silence. I wonder how long it's been, but I don't think it was that long in the end. She finally speaks in broken sentences.
ずっとね、考えてたの。昨日のあれからさっきまで。
It's clear she's not seeking a response. She just verbalizes what she's been holding inside.
何が悪かったんだろうって、どう戦えば勝てたんだろうって、負けたくせにこんなこと言うのもなんだけど、実力は拮抗してたと思うの。
She's definitely right there. Even her victorious opponent declared it was only a razor-thin
本当
margin.
に実力が拮抗してたなら、負けたのは実力以外の理由よね。で、思ったの。私は最初から久喜先生のことを見くびってたんだって。いくら元団長だからって現役の私に勝てるはずがないって侮ってたのね。
Huh? Mr. Cookie was a former captain.
そっか、ジン君は知らなかったわね。久喜先生の就任当時はちょっとした騒ぎになったのよ。元騎士団が、それも団長だった人が教師として戻ってくるなんてね。
You can't understand why. If I recall correctly, the Order members have a path set out for them to the Senrai Advanced Research Institute. It's like the recommendation system at other schools, and the system here is for the Order members to be recommended to the Senrai Advanced Research Institute. The Advanced Research Institute is one of the most prestigious of all. It's not exaggeration to state that their graduates are promised the ability to work in virtually any field. Yet he came back here as a teacher. His affection for this place must be profound, or it's for some other reason. Why haven't there been any others becoming teachers till
う
now?
ちは私立だから現役の先生が辞めるまで空きが出ないのよ。求人がめったに出ないの。それとお給料がね、公立よりはいいらしいけど、わざわざ仙台条件を出てまでのお給料じゃないって聞いたわ。
Very practical reason. The Tokyo Academy fees are 5 million yen per year. You'd think they'd choose a company with a good salary to repay that.
実際祖父や父の会社にも仙台条件出身の人は多いわ。みんな優秀だって褒めてるくらいよ。でも一番多いのは研究者ね。何しろ日本有数の研究機関だもの。
Researchers. Does that mean they become PhDs?
ええ、久喜先生も在学中は研究者を目指してたらしいわよ。
Yet he came back as a teacher. He must have quite the emotional attachment to the school. That's all I express verbally, but my own impression is different. It was something he could only do as a teacher. I'm not looking down upon the teaching profession at all. If Mr. Kuki is proud of his work, then that thought is nothing but an insult. And yet that's what I feel based on what Renjoji just said. I'm not reading into it too much.
おかげで人気者だったわよ。特にシュバリエたちから慕われてね。いろいろ相談に乗ったりしてたみたい。ただあの物腰でしょ。正直私には頼りなく思えて、それで油断したのかもね。
In fact, I never imagined he'd fight so fiercely based on his normal countenance as well.
だからこれは当然の結果でもあるの。人を見くびった罰でもあるんだわ。
The showdown was a very close fight. She knows better than anyone that such consolation is
そ
pointless.
んな人に団長なんて責任あるポジション、土台無理な話よね。
Isn't that a bit of a stretch? Why don't you just learn from your failure? It'd be impossible to go through life without making any mistakes, no matter how gifted you are. They actually say that talented and accomplished people make more mistakes than regular people.
でもそのチャンスももうないのよね。
Your tone of voice is mixed with equal measure of vexation and despondency. There's actually something I wanted to talk to you about regarding...
あ、いた！ジンくん！マイさん！
Familiar voice interrupts me. I turn around and see the three expectant faces coming towards us.
よかった、見つかって。もういきなり学園をサボっちゃうなんて心配させないで。みんなどうして？授業中よ。それを団長さんが言いますか。二人が学園をサボったって聞いて慌てて探してきたん。授業なんか受けてる場合じゃありません。だって一緒に悩んで一緒に泣いて一緒に笑うのが友達ですから。だそうです。だから来たんです。シュバリエとしてではなく団長の友人として。一緒に来たいっていう騎士団の方もいたんですが、さすがに集団で学園を抜け出すのはまずいので、まずは私たちだけで探しに来たんです。
Yeah, but still, how'd you know to come here?
ももかちゃんからメッセージが来たんです。心配しないように。寮にも戻ってなかったから危うく警察に連絡が行くところだったのよ。
Sorry for causing all this trouble. I forcefully dragged her out of here.
悪いのは私よ。ジン君は私のことを気遣ってくれて。だから悪いのは私なの。どちらでも構いませんけど、こういうことはこれっきりにしてくださいね。学園には私から言っておきましたから、大ごとにはなってないはずです。
Thanks.
恩に切るわ、みんな。
As we walked as far as the school gate abruptly disappeared, there would indeed be repercussions. That was a clear brain fart. Thanks, Momoka. I wouldn't have been so mindful on my own. I quietly give my thanks to Momoka, who's in sleep mode. The device shows absolutely no response, almost smugly.
何にしても二人が見つかってよかったです。さあ、学園に戻りましょう。いえ、いっそのことこのままみんなで遊びに行きましょう。嫌なことがあった時はパーッと騒ぐのが一番ですよ。褒められたことじゃありませんけど、それもいいかも。だって今日ばかりは学園には居づらいでしょうから。大丈夫よ、二人とも。気を使わないで。
She's grateful, but politely refuses with a sheepish
今日は
grin.
勢いでこんなことしちゃったけど、お昼からちゃんと学園には顔を出すわ。もう団長には戻れないけど、だからって学園を辞めるわけじゃないからね。
Suddenly remember what I was going to say and speak up. And that's right, there's actually something I wanted to talk to you about that. There may very well still be a way to continue the Reformation.
どういうこと？
They all look at me. Then Georgie has the most interested look of all. I looked into some stuff afterwards, though Momoka did most of it for me. Hey Momoka, wake up! I disable sleep mode. I don't know why, but I just imagined it was like, hey Momoka, wake up, wake up.
もうお話は済みましたか？それで結果はどうなったんです？
Conclusion.
何って弱ってる女性を慰めるわけですから、そのまま流れで。ももかちゃん、その話は後で。今は昨日ジン君と一緒に調べたっていう改革を続ける方法を教えてくれるかしら。うん、かしこまりました。
She begins explaining with a completely unnecessary clearing of her throat.
昨晩のデュエルの後、私とジンさんで調べてみたんです。蓮城寺さんを団長に戻す方法がないかを。結果から言うなら無理でした。騎士団憲章が定める通り、デュエルの結果を覆すことは両者の合意がない限り不可能です。
However, if you then beat the winning party in a duel and demand that they let it happen, in other words, Sopless says they'd never agree to that. They're not in agreement. Then we thought to turn that idea around. If we can't overturn this current situation, then perhaps there's a way to achieve your objective with the current situation.
ヒントになったのは神楽さんの存在です。私？
She blinks at us, though the chevalier with the title of vice was... As though the chevalier with the title of vice was caught off guard by an attack.
神楽さんは以前から中立的立場を貫いてますよね。それはどうしてですか？それは
自分で言うと嫌味に聞こえるけど、私が肩入れすればある程度の無理を押し通すことができるからよ。それが二つ名を与えられたものの権威。
あ、なるほど、そういうことね。
These people are brilliant. They worked it out just from that.
つまり権力じゃなくて影響力で改革を進めるってことですか？そもそも派閥の規模としてはこっちの方がまだ大きいですもんね。状況を加味して勢力は互角ってところじゃないでしょうか。
What's more, if Georgie was to become the chevalier with the title, she would become more influential, making it easier to swing opinion in her favor.
筋を通さない行為は余計に騎士団の権威に傷をつけますもんね。
そんなことになれば、シュバリエという制度そのものに疑問が投げかけられるでしょうね。
This is the only way I can think of to advance Reformation if you're to keep your promise to not run for captaincy. How about it?
言葉のあやっぽい気もするけど、確かに騎士団憲章にも抵触してないわ。そもそも騎士団憲章の隙をついてクーデター仕掛けてきたのは向こうですし、こっちもこれぐらいは OK ですよね。日本語で言うところの外堀を埋めていくってやり方ですね。
That's a nice way of putting it. You're exactly right.
なんだか戦国シミュレーションゲームみたいです。
Game?
内政とか諜報活動とか。
I mean, I don't get to talk. I just messed up reading the line earlier, but so I'm still gonna make fun of it.
諦める必要ないんだ。まだ私にはできることがあるんだ。少なくともその手段は残されてたのね。
待ってください。ことはそう簡単じゃありませんよ。
That curt tone reigns in our hopeful parade, as Ishidogane has a bitter expression on her face.
二つ名を得るための条件、覚えてますか？
Conan Naminamori's expression tense up.
そうでした。二つ名は名誉シュバリエの称号。剣闘祭での優勝が最低条件なんですよね。
Combat Festival. It's a historic tournament held at Tok Academy. The victory for Chevalier is the highest honor that can be bestowed.
じゃあ、もしかして。
Conan hesitantly eyes Shirogane.
神楽さんとも戦わなきゃダメってことですか？
言っておきますけど、出場する以上は手を抜きませんよ。
There are a lot of fans of the festival even outside the school. There are corporate sponsors and special investments made by rich individuals. Outsiders are invited to attend, making it apparently a huge event. There's no way she'd go easy in such a situation, and it would be futile to expect her to based on her personality alone.
剣闘祭での優勝がどれほど大変かなんて私が言うと自画自賛で嫌味みたいですけどね。でも甘い考えでどうにかなるレベルじゃないのは確かです。
だからこそ剣闘祭の結果をないがしろにすることは誰であろうとできないはず。だからこそ価値がある。
A light burns her eyes as though life was breathed back into her. The heat coming from within her puts color back into her cheeks, like being dyed by starlight. 先生堂々と優勝して二つ名をもぎ取ってやるわ。手加減なんてしたらむしろ許さないんだから。
だとしたら私たちは敵同士。これ以上の馴れ合いはお互いのためになりませんね。騎士団の仕事以外では極力話さない方がいいかもしれません。
She turns around and looks away from us without any
大
hesitation.
会では本気で相手をさせてもらいます。団長にも意地があるように私にもありますから。
意地か。そんなのが私にもあったのね。自分でもびっくりだわ。
では
The Knight Weiss leaves with those parting words. Her overly curt manner has Conan pouting.
確かに大会では敵同士になるかもしれないですけど、だからってお話もしないなんてちょっと極端じゃないですか？あれで白金さんは気を使ってくれてるのよ。お互いのために少しでも不正を疑われる可能性を潰そうとしているの。
You never know where complaints might brew. There are people who would allege match fixing just from them chatting before the tournament.
そっか。もう駆け引きは始まってるんですね。さすがです。
She gulps down loudly. There is one more course for concern besides the battle with Shirogane.
まだあるんですか？聞かせてください。この際です。不安なことは全部洗い出してしまいましょう。
And Georgie must have already noticed as she twirls her long hair at the base of her neck and bites her lip with a pained expression on her face. There's a quota of alumni at the tournament.
OB 枠。
Kano and Amanomori look at Georgie's expression of trepidation. Meanwhile, her cheeks are tense with anxiety and unease. However, an indomitable will dwells within her eyes, drowning out both of those.
二つのを持つシュバリエだけじゃなくて、一度負けた相手にも勝たなきゃいけないなんて。ほんと、なんだか笑えてくるわ。でも、接戦だったんですよね。どっちが勝ってもおかしくない勝負だったって噂ですし。
The voice of the person saying that gradually fades away. She must know herself, matches are no simple thing. Both Kanon and Aminomori's shoulders droop. She hugs both of them to laugh it off.
そんなに落ち込まないで、二人とも。戦うのは私なのよ。それに、これってむしろ最高のチャンスなのよ。考えてみて。みんなの応援で勇気100倍。不利な状況から逆転勝利。一番盛り上がるシチュエーションじゃない？
Their expressions relax with her joking from her joking tone.
そんな状況で優勝すれば、さっき話してた影響力だってもっと強くなるわ。だからね、せっかく可愛い顔してるんだから、とびっきりの笑顔で剣闘祭を思いっきり盛り上げてお願いできるかしら？はい、そうですよね。ピンチはチャンスですよね。私、最後までマイさんをサポートします。手伝うって約束しちゃってますからね。嘘つきだって思われるのも尺ですし、私も最後まで付き合います。ありがとう、二人とも。いやー！
She's overcome with emotion as she embraces both of them. They both shriek, but still have genuine smiles on their faces. They smile at each other for a while before Aminomori nods and pulls away.
それじゃあ、早速学園に戻って、いろいろ準備しますね。私も、舞さんはまだ諦めてないって、騎士団の人たちにも伝えておきますから。うん、私もすぐに戻るから。
After nodding, Kano and Aminomori leave the park. Then Georgie watches them leave before saying the following few words.
ありがとう、ジンくん。本当にありがとう。
That was no big deal. Ah! She's suddenly in my face. I'm so shocked my voice cracks. She gently touches my cheek with both hands. I'm enveloped with that peach-like aroma once more. Georgie? My heart is pounding and my body is getting exponentially hotter. I don't know why she's suddenly doing this. Her art-like eyebrows hang sadly and she seems out of
よく
sorts.
見ればクマが浮かんでる。ひょっとして徹夜したんじゃない？
Well, I'm used to it. It's hard to stay up all night for a mission, so... It's normal to stay up all night for a mission, so it's no big deal. Besides, as I said earlier, Momoka did most of the work. It wasn't that hard.
そんなこと言って、諦めるしかないって言っても、絶対に何か手はあるはずだって、学園中の資料をひっくり返してたのは、ジンさんじゃないですか。
Hey, Momoka, you didn't need to tell her that! Find it unusually embarrassing having someone realize that I worked hard, desperately for their sake. Blah, blah, blah. Even though, even more so in front of the person themselves. I'm at a loss and she presses her hands on my cheeks more firmly. I see myself reflected in her moist eyes like I would in the polished jewels. There's something mystical about them that makes me want to keep... There's something mystical about them that makes me want to keep staring at them.
まったく、君って子は、そんなだから。
She suddenly cuts off her comment and bites her lip. She smiles wryly and bashfully. Makes you what?
教えてあげない。
She clearly evades my question. She finally moves away and tidies her disheveled hair with a
本
sigh.
当、ジンさんには困ったものですね。すみません、レンジョージさん。代わりに私から謝らせてください。
Hang on a sec, why are you apologizing? Did I do something wrong?
はあ、
You're saying in sync!
ジン君にそういう機微を求めるのは諦めてるけど、一人の女がここまで弱さを晒す意味くらいは考えてほしいわね。
Ah, so that's what it was. I finally hit upon what it was. Finally figured out what you're seeking.
嘘、自分で言っておいてなんだけど、
Nah, who
本当
didn't?
に分かったの？
Basically, you want me to be your training partner. I was confident in my answer, but it went down like a ton of lead bricks. Huh? Was I wrong?
いいえ、間違ってないわよ。実際頼もうと思ってたことだしね。蓮城寺さん、かわいそうに涙を禁じえません。涙が出る機能ないですけど、気持ちだけで十分よ、ももかちゃん。
It's kind of hard being left in the dark when the two of you are talking about something I don't understand. They sigh in harmony again, deeper and longer than before. Anyway, please don't lose focus. And Joji, this really is your last chance. I'm not sure what would happen if you failed this time. Under the circumstances, you can not only lose her standing, but even be forced to quit the order. She's already been relieved of her post as captain in an unprecedented move and lost the ability to run for the captaincy from her loss in a duel. But she refused to give up and is going to try to use the combat festival to struggle on. I could imagine it ruining her reputation, and I can't imagine what effect it would have on the order, given how highly they value honor.
今は対面を気にしてる場合じゃないわ。そんなの野良犬の餌にでもすればいいのよ。
She easily laughs off any
今
concerns.
一番必要なのは私の名誉じゃなくて後輩たちの学生生活よ。そのために今まで頑張ってきたんだもの。諦めずに済む方法があるなら泥水をすすろうと地べたを這いずり回ってでもしがみつかなきゃね。
You're sure strong. I'm not sure if I can think of her as indomitable or cornered, hearing a fine young woman speak of being covered in mud. If I should think of her as indomitable or cornered.
必死なだけよ。だからよろしくね、ジン君。
Of course. She holds out her hand, and I grasp it in response. Her hand is small and soft. She thinks such slender arms and hands fended off Mr. Cookie's furious sword. Silently resolved to support her as much as I can. It's the next day after school. We begin training for the combat festival immediately. Shrine, no park. I've been thinking about it a lot, and to be honest, there is not a lot we can achieve in the month until the
い
festival.
きなり特訓を否定するようなことを言うわね。じゃあどうするつもりなの？
To put it simply, just fine-tune. Their capabilities are almost evenly matched. There's a razor thin margin between them. That margin is all that separates victor from loser. It's lost the rest of their lives. That's why she absolutely must win the duel. Let's ignore the other Chevalier and concentrate on countermeasures against Mr. Cookie. Specifically, how to counteract against his extra reach.
でも他にもシュバリエは出場するのよ。白金さんだって。
Either way, it's impossible to win without beating him. She nodded with a stern look.
そうね。確かにその通りだわ。
Combat Festival follows a tournament format, but the alumni compete from the semi-finals. If she plans to win, then the possibility of facing him is strong. She needs countermeasures.
ああ、白金さんとぶつかって潰し合ってくれれば楽なのに。
Her expression and voice tells me she's half joking and half serious. Well, even if that were the case, the strongest one would still win. There's the possibility you could run into both of them.
楽な道なんてのはないのよね。覚悟の上とはいえ、ずっしりとくるわ。
That said, you don't have time to prepare a counterattack for both of them, so you have to concede working on countermeasures against Shirogane just as much as the other Chevalier. If you do manage to fight your way through her, then just do your best with your raw skill. Through to her.
なんとかしろだなんて簡単に言ってくれるわね。
Of course, I'm not just throwing that out there heedlessly. I heard that even though you're capable of beating Shirogane, you lost to her on purpose. That was shortly after I came to the school. I recall that I hadn't had understood the night system when someone told me
そ
that.
れはちょっと盛りすぎね。 第一、そんな失礼なことしたら白金さんに怒られちゃうわ。
She puts on a grimace too sour to be called a
実
smile.
際にあったのはこうよ。去年の検討祭は団長として関わるのが初めてだったから、仕事に追われてろくな準備ができなかったの。おまけに当日になっていろんなトラブルが起こって、対処している間に出番が来ちゃって、ある程度は勝ち進めたんだけど、白金さんと当たった時にはヘッドヘッドであっさり負けちゃったわ。わざと負けたとか、気分屋だから勝敗にこだわらないとか、根も葉もないデタラメよ。
So what would happen if you were in top form? Her lips are sealed as she carefully considers her response, but she doesn't think for that long.
たられば話なんて意味ないわ。結果が全てよ。勝てなかったって結果しか。
There's clear vexation in her voice. She normally seems so aloof, but she's in fact quite passionate. Then you've got a 50-50 chance. You need to work on countermeasures against Mr. Cookie.
そうね。クキ先生には言い訳できないくらい綺麗に負けたものね。わかった。ジン君の言う通りにするわ。だからビシバシ鍛えて。
Okay, I'll get you to the point where you can beat him so handily no one will be able to complain. Held out a pole I bought at the hardware store so we could get straight down to real practice. It's just an ordinary pole. It's made of wood and 1.5 meters long. Mr. Cookie's advantage comes from his height and physical strength. Being over 180 centimeters tall with his slim but sturdy build makes him look as hard as a fortress to overcome. Neither of us are particularly short, but with almost 10 centimeter difference between us, it feels like a child challenging an adult, because you are a child challenging an adult. He also has long limbs. I'm honestly quite envious.
あら、ジン君でもそんなこと思うんだ。
Oh yeah, having long reach is a boon. You can defeat an enemy without even getting near to them.
そっちなんだ。まあ男の子らしいというか、ジン君らしいわね。
What does she mean? Oh, whatever, I'll continue. But that does mean there is no way to counter it. In short, you have to bring them into your strike zone. It's like that in mixed martial arts, right? That a fighter skilled at grappling tackles a fighter skilled at striking. Don't they both try to pull each other into their strike zones? How do you bring an opponent with long reach into your strike zone? That's what we'll concentrate on.
実際この前のデュエルではなかなか懐に入れなくて好きにさせてもらえなかったものね。それでその棒なんだ。
I made it basically 30 centimeters longer than Mr. Cookie's longsword. Even I'm surprised at how long it is now that I wield
剣
it.
術というよりは棒術か上術に近いわね。そんなので本当に練習になるのかしら。
We'll give it a try. Rather than discuss it, I think you'll find it easier to understand by actually experiencing
そう
it.
ね。まずは経験してみるのが大事よね。
She selects her rapier and parrying dagger and takes a stance. Let's try some light free exercise. Here goes. Our weapons come together with a clunk, signaling the beginning. It's practice and not a real match, so I raise the pole aloft to intentionally create an opening. She pushes her center of gravity forward in order to close the distance. But just by stepping back and pointing my weapon at her eyes, a frown forms on her pretty face.
クキ先生以上に間合いが遠いわ。やりにくいったらないわね。
Your chance of success should increase if you can close this distance.
それは分かってるけど、どうしたものかしらね。
She bites her lip pensively. She moves forward and seriously trying. She's moving forward and seriously trying, but I just take a step back and don't let her. When she makes no progress after simply going back and forwards, she ends up with her rapier wrapped around my pole as she did in the duel. I don't try to force it away, instead using its force to spin my pole around. The other end of the pole springs up towards her jaw. She immediately takes a step back to evade it. She puts some distance between us, but I press it forward like a spear. She just barely manages to repel it with a parrying dagger when it's a hair's breadth away. I step back again and I evade a succession of attacks from her. I don't pursue her and simply catch my breath as I resume my stance each time.
なるほどね。剣じゃないから両端で攻撃できるのね。
Her eyes light up in
それ
admiration.
に動きもトリッキーで次々に間合いが変わるのが面白いわ。遠いかと思えば近くて、次の瞬間にはまた遠くなってて。
Yeah, it's a simple problem of physics. There's the fulcrum, leverage, and point of application. The position of the fulcrum and leverage is important to manipulating the pole. By changing where you hold it, the fulcrum changes and you can alter the distance from the opponent. See? I grasp it near the center and spin it around. Then I grab it from the end and spin it around, and of course its arc and trajectory is much wider than before.
たったそれだけのことなのよね。なのにこれだけやりづらいなんて。武道の真髄って単純なところにあるのかも。
I'm made aware of how strong she must be by how keenly she listens to my explanations. She doesn't exert herself unnecessarily nor overdo it, but just watches her opponent carefully, and yet she also listens intently. She also understands the meaning of free practice, doesn't attack haphazardly, and thinks about how to attack in a logical fashion. Someone like her would improve rapidly in martial arts irrespective of the school. If you stab, it's a spear. If you parry, it's a halberd. And if you slash, it's a longsword.
何それ。
An expression that represents the pole martial arts. It's a perfectly ordinary pole, but you can use it in unorthodox ways. I find it strangely embarrassing to say that. One of my teachers told me that, and all I'm doing is reciting what they said. It seems strange to pass on verbally what has become my flesh and blood technique.
つまりこれって自分の得意な間合いを作ると同時に、どの間合いでも対処できるようにする特訓でもあるのね。
I'm impressed you could figure all that out. Let's try and make it so you turn a large distance into one that suits you. Then we can try various offensive strategies for variable distances. Both Mr. Kuki and your sword styles are too upfront. It's common development in duels that they face someone head-on, deflect their attacks, attack, and then drive their sword in to attack. Rather than feinting, it's more about smashing through their opponent's defense and forcing their way in, which means it all comes down to strength, stamina, and experience. In the final judgment, Mr. Kuki simply got one move ahead and secured victory. Take command of the distance and vary your attacks. Let's prioritize those 2 points. That should open the path to victory for
ジン
you.
君が剣術じゃなくて棒術を使うのはそのためなのね。いろんな動きを見て学べってことなんでしょ。
Partly, but in terms of pure sword technique, I'm no match for you. It's no humility, but fact. Should it come down to fighting in a duel fair and square against her, I'd lose after just a handful of strikes. However, in a no-holds-barred fight, there is no chance I'd lose.
そんなこと言ってるけど、負けるつもりはないって顔してるわよ。
I'm shocked for a minute when she read she read my mind like that. On the other hand, she's smirking like a child looking at her favorite toy.
続けるわよ。その顔、凍りつかせてやるんだから。
I like a fighting spirit. There are a lot of prodigies that lose their spirit after losing once. Fortunately, there's no sign of Renjoji being dispirited. She swings her kali stick with all her might, intent on defeating me. A few days pass with us practicing like this. And Joji finds a split-second opening and uses it to close the distance. I managed to use the pole to guard myself, but the acuteness of her movements has me frustrated. Her movements have improved remarkably in just a few days. She was initially fumbling around with her attacks and defense, but her movements have become consistent, and there's much more confidence in each and every attack. It's incredible how much her ability to counter attacks from an opponent with an unfamiliar weapon has improved. That's why you can't underestimate quick-witted people. They easily pick up skills that normal people like me work incredibly hard to acquire. It's honestly frustrating, but I'm also strangely pleased. It's indescribably uplifting watching talent bloom like this. That doesn't mean I can just lose to her, though. I rain a barrage of attacks on her with my pole and put her on the defensive. I don't need to hit her. My objective is to keep her out of striking distance. As expected, she retreats her lithe body backwards. As she moves back. I am now further away than Mr. Cookie's reach, and I forcefully swing my pole downward.
読んでたわ。
She twists barely half her body's length and evades my attack. She accurately targets the opening created after my attack, and without any hesitation, swiftly closes the distance. I twist my wrist to try and bridge the gap with the pole, but it doesn't go well. Her stick acting as a parrying dagger presses my weapon and holds it back. Her expression glimmers like that of a child getting away with a prank. Shit. In this range, she'll close the distance and be in range for a lethal attack. She reaches out with her stick, which functions as a rapier, accurately targeting my throat. I hastily take a step back to try and dodge, but it's no good. I won't make it. I make a judgment there to let go of my pole. I twist my whole body and grab her wrist and rapier together. It's about the same time as I hear her startled voice. She's slipped in close diagonally, and our waists become entangled. My other hand has already grabbed her around the waist. I can feel her center of gravity falling on me as I stretch both my legs out forcefully. I assume the major hip throw stance from judo would easily lift her up. I just need to twist my hips and the technique will be perfectly executed.
まだまだ。
She entwines her legs around my pivot foot. Crap! As a result, I lose my balance and my move collapses part way. Oh no. I'm unable to stop our momentum and we both end up somersaulting ass end over teacups. Ow. Are you okay, Joji? Ha 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 ha.
危なかったわ。危うく投げられるところだったわね。
Her face is so close. Her face is right before my eyes. What's more, we entangled when we tumbled, so I'm embracing her and suddenly feel heat emanating from within me. Sweat breaks out on my palms for a reason clearly unrelated to exertion. The inside of my mouth is dry, and before I know it, her face fills my field of vision. Her well-chiseled face looks at me with a glare filled with displeasure.
っていうか、今のはずるくない？あんなの剣術の動きじゃないわよ。ジンくん？おい、人の話ちゃんと聞いてるの？
Sorry, the timing just fits. I did it without thinking. I raised my voice to cover up my bewilderment. But what I said wasn't a lie. It wasn't the entire truth, though. The timing for the technique was absolutely ideal. At the same time, it wasn't the only technique I could use in that predicament. It happened unconsciously. What's more, the technique was interrupted part way, and we both took a tumble and ended up this way. You in a hurry, are you?
平気。ひねったりもしてないわ。でも、ちょっと休憩させて。さすがに疲れちゃった。
Yes, of course. That's fine.
どうしたの？
She blinks, her long eyelashes fluttering. But that's all she did. That's all she did, but it was enough to make me want to rip my chest hairs off. What? Can't get the words out straight. I can hear my heart pounding unusually loudly. I feel more tense than the first time I went on a mission. I'm gasping for breath as my eyes dart around nervously. A grin comes across her face. My voice cracks when I notice it. Georgie, are you teasing me?
からかうって何のことかしら？
She squeezes herself tighter against me. I feel a soft sensation pressing against me. You're definitely teasing me! Why are you still holding on to me?
それにしても、まさかジン君が柔道まで習ってるなんて思わなかったわ。
Please don't dodge the question. Besides, it wasn't judo just now.
違ったの？
Shit. There's no way I can tell her it's based on the classical martial arts that ninja arts are based on. The reason my mouth is running unnecessarily must be due to the physical closeness that's making me panic slightly. That peach-like aroma is enveloping me. There's no way that's deodorant. Sweet aroma emanates from the Joji that's melting my brain.
ジン君ったらすごい顔してるわよ。
Her casual laugh tickles the inside of my ears. That alone has made me go weak in the knees. I surrender. I give up, so could you,
ねえ、ジン君。
She interrupts me before I can ask her to get off me.
私ね、ずっと不思議に思ってることがあるの。
What? Feels like her voice is somehow far off. She stares at me with a hazy smile. She's so close that I can feel her body heat. All my 5 senses are enveloped in a dreamlike warmth.
どうしてこんなに可愛いのに恋人がいないのかしら。
The question is so out of left field that I give her a simple, thoughtless response. Huh? What are you asking me for? I'm sure you could have met as many boyfriends you wanted if you felt like it.
違うわ。そっちじゃなくて。
Something soft, pale, and slender touches my cheek. She's gently stroking my
君
cheek.
のことよ。
Me? For some reason, those words make me
可
choke
愛
up.
くて、かっこよくて、優しくて、
Whoops.
真面目で、思いやりがあって。女の子が放っておくとは思えないんだけどね。
I'm not comfortable around girls to begin with because I'm not the only girl I can talk openly with.
あら、ももかちゃんも女の子枠なのね。AI 相手に嫉妬しちゃうなんて、私も妙な経験をするわね。
No, that was just like a figure of speech. The more I speak, the more incoherent I become. I feel like running away. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, I don't really have much opportunity to interact with girls due to my circumstances. So when it comes down to it, I get nervous and I can't speak properly. Even now, about the only thing I can speak with comfortably are the only ones I can speak with comfortably are Connor and her friends, so girls can't be bothered to approach me.
私と話すときは、今も緊張してるの？
Well, of course I am. I see her eyebrows tense up slightly and respond immediately, so does the sensation of her arms around me. But I can't afford to be distracted by them and keep talking. You're the only one who makes me this nervous, no one else does. I don't know why I can't be myself when I'm with you. Why I feel a tightening in my chest. I feel unusually nervous, but it's not an unpleasant feeling. If anything, I really enjoy being with you, but I still feel nervous. I was fine until recently, but I've been feeling that way all the time lately.
そうなんだ。そうだったんだ。
She looked so glum before, but she suddenly breaks out into a broad grin. And when I'm understanding less and less, and I'm being assailed by a vague sense of despair.
ねえ、ジンくん、どうして私がいるとそんな風に緊張するんだと思う？
I said it's because I'm not used to dealing with
でも、
girls.
カノンちゃんたちは平気なのよね。それに、ちょっと前までは私と一緒にいても平気だったんでしょ？
I don't think of it, you're right. I don't really get it though. I can't understand why this would happen. The biggest smile she's had yet today appears on her face.
それはね、ジンくんが私のこと好きだからよ。
I need a few seconds for the words to sink in. Quite a few seconds longer still aren't enough for me to comprehend them. Huh? What?
だってそうでしょ？ジンくんのその症状、完全に恋の病じゃない。
Love. My disbelief intensifies. I don't get it at all, yet I can't even think of something to say to deny it.
違うって言うなら、こういうことされると嫌じゃない？
Or not. She squeezes me tightly in her embrace. She's soft, warm, and that peach-like fragrance assaults me strongly, making my mind ache sweetly. I'm nervous and stiff as a board, but I don't dislike it. No. My voice fades away to be replaced by her laughter.
でしょ？私も嫌じゃないもの。
Going in.
こうしてジンくんとくっついてるの。むしろすごく嬉しいし安心する。
She's fucking going in, and I am sure that Bud is very happy about that fact.
どうしてだと思う？
There's only one answer I can think of, but I haven't got the confidence nor conviction to say it out
わから
loud.
ないなら気づかせてあげる。
Now she goes for it. She was already close as it was, but she slowly brings her face even closer to mine. What pale cheeks, what lustrous flowing hair, what long eyelashes, what a mind-numbing peach-like fragrance. Her moist eyes and lips get closer ever so slowly. It's the first time I've felt the sensation. I'm not sure if it's my lacking vocabulary or experience, but I can't compare it to anything else. Unless it truly is an incomprehensible sensation, I can't be certain. It's just that I'm entranced by the pleasantly contradictory sensation of my chest being crushed while at the same time feeling so warm.
どう
I didn't even notice her pulling her lips
初
away.
めて触れる女の子の感触どうだった
Her hot breath that accompanies her voice tickles my eardrums. That's enough for my brain to moan in pleasure. Stop. Why'd you have to phrase it like that?
私はすごく気持ちよかったわ
Felt something slightly warmer than that of the touch of human skin spread all over my body. Certainly can't mistake her feelings now. She made them abundantly clear along with my own. Thinking back, how long have I been attracted to her? The way she smiles so cheerfully, the way she's so considerate of other people's feelings despite being so calculating. The way she looks so sure of everything but refuses to give up. The way she appears to be such a prim and proper girl on the outside but is happily wallowing in mud.
知らなかったでしょ私が少し前からジン君のこと好きになってたこと
I feel so ashamed. Only now did I recognize your feelings, let alone did I recognize my own feelings, let alone yours.
私は気づいてたわよジン君が私のこととっくに好きになってるって
How long ago?
団長を解任された私を励ましてくれた時よあの時ね君に打算以上の感情があることに気づいたの
As you mentioned it, you may be right. I honestly encouraged Renjoji out of concern rather than for the sake of my
で
mission.
しょ好きな人のことってねなんとなくわかるのよいろいろ知りたいって思うからかしら
She says it so casually, but it's so powerful that I feel myself burning up from the inside. Like, I don't know why, but in my mind, Momoka has secretly already started a call with Shizuku, and it's just like both of them are just silently listening to the conversation, while Shizuku is just fucking tearing up like, my boy's finally got a girl! I'm so proud of him!
好きになってくれてありがとうジン君
Wait, did I read that one? She says it so casually, but it's so powerful that I feel myself burning up from the inside. There we go. What are you talking about? It's not something to be thanking me for. Act tough, even though I feel all
そ
bashful.
うでもね私思うのジン君が好きになってくれたからこうして今頑張れてるんだってね誰かに好かれてるって実感があると不思議と力が湧いてくるんだもん
Her abashed voice resonates directly into my chest, blowing life into it. Perhaps this is what it means to be smitten by someone. And Joji?
ジン君
We both bring our lips together. No CG again, somewhere. I feel sweet warmth on my lips again. We whisper each other's name, and our actions become more and more tempestuous. She wraps her arms around me and I hug her back in response. My mind is going numb because of her sweet aroma and softness. You're still in the fucking public park. Q Kanon just walking in on this and like, what the fuck is happening? You don't need the rest of that. Our lips part and her bashful smile, along with her hair gleaming in the evening sun, fill my vision. It's neither an exaggeration nor a joke to say it glitters so brilliantly. It's resplendent. She squirms and her smile becomes stiff in bewilderment. Sorry, did I hurt you?
違うのその
Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh boy! Is this the first time I've pulled this one out for this game? I think it's the first time I pulled this one out for this game. Either that or I'm fucking stupid, which quite frankly is a very high likelihood of that being the case. Anyways, oh boy! Jeez! I'm sorry! I'm assailed by embarrassment so intense I wish I could die and frantically push to move away. However, and Joji, I can't pull away unless you relax your hold on me.
どうして離れなきゃいけないの
I spy her poking her tongue out between her lips. Sharp sensation runs through my loins. Because you said that some lard was pressing up against you.
だから
So, I mean, I'm now in a complete
な
panic.
んていうかその私そういうの初めて意識しちゃった
I'm sorry, I can't believe I do something like this. Of course, I'm well aware that it's instinctive and life is born as a result of such actions, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't want to do it. Frankly, I'd love to, but I feel so guilty because of the look she's
い
giving
い
me.
のよ。謝るようなことじゃないわ。
She gently hugs me close once more.
私もしたいの。好きな人に抱きしめられたいし、抱きしめたい。
Oh no! Suddenly the hypothetical situation that I went into earlier about Momokai and his mom just listening in on the entire situation got a whole lot more awkward, isn't it? Oh boy! Who tagged me? How dareth he? Twitter link. The fuck's my brother sending me a Twitter link? Oh. It's Reggie Float. It's fucking Reggie Float. If you don't know what I mean when I say Reggie Float, then just go ahead and look it up. Anyways.
それも今すぐに。
Now? Like, right here? I'm the one getting cold feet at her insanely bold proposal. But my instincts tell me it's the right thing to do.
いい具合に影に隠れてるしね。時間も時間だから誰もいないし。
The situation just keeps getting more awkward. If Shizuku was actually listening in on this, she would have, first off, she would have just learned that she would have been happy that that her son got himself a lover. But then she would immediately be assailed by the fact that minutes within realizing that he liked her, realizing that she liked him, and starting to go out, they fucked. And on top of that, it was outside in an empty public park. Shizuku? Either Shizuku has mad respect for him right now, or by God, he's disappointed her more than he ever will for the rest of his life. Sure enough, I don't sense anyone in his presence, and we're falling under the veil of darkness. Our visibility is poor. Street lights only illuminate the open spaces, making the thickets conversely covered in darkness.
あのね、ジン君。
She pouts peevishly.
男の子に性欲があるのと同じで、女の子だってそういうのあるんだからね。
She says that in a tone, voice reminiscent of a sister scolding her younger brother, but I can see her cheeks flushing under the illumination of the sky, changing from crimson to indigo blue. It's all the more proof that she's pushing aside her sense of shame and bashfulness to express her desire for me. Something that snaps deep within me, okay?
よろしい。
She nods, looking satisfied, but it doesn't escape me that her pale cheeks are flushing redder than ever before. I don't trust you. I'll never trust you.
考えてみれば、
She's wearing
とんで
clothes.
もない場所で初体験しちゃったわね。私たち。
She says that bashfully after we finish getting
言っ
dressed.
とくけど、ジン君のせいだからね。突然投げ飛ばしてくるから、あんな格好で抱き合っちゃって。そうしたら、ムラムラ来ちゃったんだもん。我慢なんかできなくて当然よ。
Horny.
だって、好きな人と密着してたのよ。顔も近くて、匂いだって感じられる距離で。キュンキュンしない方がおかしいじゃない。だから、私は無実。悪いのはジン君よ。
I'm sorry? Of course I know she's kidding, but I jokingly apologize. She laughs amusedly to cover up her own embarrassment.
いいわ。私だって楽しんだわけだしね。それに。
Besides, she's still frozen in place, and off to the side, there's just Kanon just fucking standing like, I mean, I knew that some ninjas are barely taught in the sexual arts for, you know, extracting information, but Jesus fucking Christ. She abruptly puts her arm around mine.
これで晴れて恋人同士だものね。投げられたのがきっかけで付き合うなんて文字通り怪我の巧妙だわ。
There's your lesson, guys. If you like a girl, just judo throw her. You'll be dating by the end of the day. Don't actually. She'll probably report you for not only physical but also sexual assault. As for the throwing technique, you can't ever predict what your opponent will do in a real fight, so please give me a break.
いいわ。剣闘祭だって別に投げ技が禁止されてるわけじゃないしね。
Oh, I had no idea. If throwing and locking techniques aren't forbidden, then why doesn't anyone use them? She leads me by the hand with a smile. We still feel lingering bashfulness from the deed we did as we walk off.
シュバリエらしく正々堂々戦って勝つことが求められるからよ。
Attacks to vital points, victories from unsportsmanlike means, and unnecessary acts of violence. They're viewed as unfair and lead to instant disqualification. But the definitions of vital and unnecessary are vague and apparently not clearly
過
maintained.
去に剣を弾き飛ばされて素手で戦い続けたシュバリエが失格になったことがあったの。その結果、なんとなく武器以外での攻撃はしない方が無難。足を引っ掛けるくらいならともかく、投げたり関節を取ったりはグレーゾーンかしら。
It's kind of flexible, isn't it?
まあ、シュバリエって言われてイメージする戦い方から外れてなければ、そう目くじら立てられたりはしないわね。
Doesn't that unnecessarily confuse things, though? In literature, the actual chevalier apparently used quite a lot of devious tricks. Oh no. Ah! Both of us scream from the unexpected voice. But Momoka, don't scare us like that!
さっきの見てたの？
I can hear her going
誰に
pale.
も見られてないから平気とか、恋は盲目って本当なんですね。
Her scathing, amused voice feels like being stabbed in the chest. My bad, we're sorry, so please don't sound so disgusted.
ごめんなさい、ももかちゃん。恥ずかしいところ見せちゃって本当に申し訳ないわ。違います。私が気にしているのはそんなことじゃありません。そもそもスリープモードにすれば情報はある程度シャットアウトできますから、実際肝心な部分は見てませんからね。私の起点に二人とも感謝してくださいね。
Thank God. Then why are you angry?
さっきから聞いてたら、愛し合ったばかりというのに散文的な話ばかり。甘くて愛のある語らいがあっても良いのではと思いますが。
We look at each other and both crack out in laughter. Well, I get what you're trying to say.
甘い語らいだけが恋愛じゃないわ。そういうのはいずれ機会があればね。なるほど。つまり似た者同士ってことですね。何にせよあなたに恋人ができたことできっと静香様もお喜びになるでしょう。
Momoka, you haven't told.
はい、すでに報告済みです。
How could you? The thought of Mom learning about my love life is so awkward that I want to crawl into a hole somewhere.
マイさん、これからジンさんをよろしくお願いしますね。ご存知のようにこんな子ですからご迷惑をおかけするかと思いますが。それはお互い様よ。私もたくさん迷惑かけちゃうわ、きっと。
My cheeks burn up from being teased. A different sort of embarrassment quietly warms my heart. What the fuck is that? Oh, research. That night. I don't sense anyone. Alright. The whole the prince and the princess becoming united and the whole prince and princess became united and lived happily ever after. The end only happens in fairy tales. For better or worse, reality continues after that. Especially in our case, the towering objective of being victorious in the combat festival still looms. I can't let my guard down now, and to try and support as much as possible, I sneak into the Advanced Research Institute's research building.
いいんですか?
I hear Momoko's concerned voice in my bone conduction earphone. Mai may not be pleased. Investigating your opponent's past isn't very chivalrous.
それでもやるんですね.
Yeah, results are everything to a ninja. My objective is Mr. Kuki's personal information. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles, they say. I've snuck into here specifically to find out if something happened to him in the past. Apparently Mr. Kuki was aspiring to work as a researcher at the Advanced Research Institute after graduating from Toka Academy. He had such an easy route into it, yet he went out of his way to become a teacher at his alma mater. Doesn't that bother you? Even if he was a former chevalier, I can't imagine why he'd want to support the order so badly that he'd become a mere teacher.
この学園の教師なら学生で解決できることは学生に任せるはずです.
It's a different era too. I think it's overstepping the boundaries of what an advisor should be doing. Choosing to support either the conservative or reformist factions is going too far. What teachers and advisors should be doing is simply creating an environment for arbitration. The order's sense of autonomy is strong enough. The other teachers actually don't get involved in the order's quarrels. If he's intervening so much, then perhaps he's receiving some kind of monetary compensation. Or maybe I'm just thinking that because I see the bad in people too much. Evil thoughts lurk behind even the most virtuous people, and no one knows. Doing this job has made me acutely aware of that.
理解に冠を正さずという言葉もあります。何にしても調べればわかるでしょう。
I'm sneaking into the server room that I previously investigated. Personal information is isolated from the outside, so as annoying as it is, it's necessary to use a direct connection. I've left the lights off, so it's pitch black, but I have good night vision, so it's no hindrance. I ask Momo to connect and begin hacking immediately.
セキュリティ突破しました。少し骨が折れましたが。
Did you find anything?
クキ先生のデータは見つかりました。
Do you know why he gave up his research position?
いえ、はっきりとしたことは何も。ただ、特別目を引くような成績ではなかったようです。就職課の情報と照らし合わせると、教職の求人も3月のギリギリに出されてたみたいです。
In other words, he was trying to become a researcher, but his dream was shattered, and when he couldn't find a job, the teacher position coincidentally came up, and he slipped into it. Doesn't sound particularly attached to his teaching position. So he helplessly slid into the job, and while doing it, he met good students that worshipped him, making him feel like the king of the castle. Being a former chevalier as a teacher, he was apparently quite popular from the moment he was employed. So is that why he was opposed to Mai's reforms, to the point of even dueling against her? Seems quite plausible based on the information so far. Jumping to conclusions leads to errors. It's more important to collect information right now instead of making rash judgments. The next day, once evening falls, I begin my operation, and as I did the previous night, I silence my footsteps as I head for the school staff room. Of course, this is to investigate Mr. Cookie. On the way, I see the back of my target. What is he doing at this time of night? It's not like I'm one to talk, but fortunately, I'm telling him. Then I notice him crouch down and slip into the order office. I hear voices from inside. Seems there's a gathering of the conservatives. Without any hesitation, I kick off the wall and grab hold of a ventilation duct on the roof. Silently enter and observe the order office.
みんな頑張ってるかい？差し入れにおにぎりを買ってきたよ。
Thank you, Mr. Cookie. Hey guys, let's take a breather. I claim the dried bonito soy sauce and these makes them so delicious. Hey, you slimeball, don't take both. Didn't we decide everyone gets one of each type? But I hate the rest. Let's just trade.
大丈夫だよ。今日はいつもより多めに買ってきてるから。それとインスタントだけどお味噌汁もあるから。
I appreciate you always doing this for us, sir, but is it really okay? I've heard that a teacher's salary isn't that great.
ほら、学生が教師に遠慮なんかしないの。
This cookie smiles awkwardly.
それよりも、そっちの進み具合はどうなんだい？言っておくけど、 次のテストはここにいる全員が全教科で90点以上取るのが目標だからね。
They all sigh in unison. Are you serious? Over 90% on academic achievement is regarded as a bolt to become a chevalier. I'm mostly not very confident, especially with math, but I think I'll be okay with Japanese and social studies. I seriously can't get my head around these foreign names in world history. I can't tell my first from my second and third generation for shit. I'm not worried about the tests, but there is a mountain of chevalier work as a result. That's gonna be a trouble. I've been thinking about that. See, if we do this, we can cut down on further wasteful expenses. You're right, then we can transfer the remaining budget here.
偉いね。予算についてちゃんと考えてるんだ。
I was against the former captain's reforms, but that doesn't mean I thought she was useless. I'll do what I think is right. He doesn't seem as so much haughty as he snorts and crosses his
こ
arms.
れで全員テスト勉強に打ち込めるね。じゃあまずはつまずいたところから順に始めようか。
Seems he's here to teach all the order members and watch over their work. He watches over them. He is boisterous but serious and patient, and occasionally humorous.
慕われてるみたいですね。
I nod back at the voice from my conduction earphones and observe their happy faces. It's more like a club training camp than a study meeting. Seems obvious, but seeing them like this, it's clear they're just a bunch of students. Yet they took such a spiteful stance against who they deemed their enemy.
じゃあ今日はこのぐらいにしようか。
They sigh in relief and the tension in the room eases. They each voice how tired they are and prepare to go home.
ああみんなおにぎり余ってるよ。ほら持って帰って。今日食べなくても明日の朝ごはんにすればいいから。
Thanks again, Mr. Cookie.
いいのいいの。おにぎりと味噌汁だけなんだし、そんなにかしこまらないで。本当はもっといいものを差し入れられたらいいんだけどね。さっきの話じゃないけど、教師の給料は安いから。
What are you talking about? We're incredibly grateful you bring us anything. So true. I went without dinner, so I'm really thankful. Oh, did your allowance finally run out? The Chavalier's face tenses up like a child being caught when he has that pointed out. But the next instant, he forces a smile and dismisses it. Yeah, it's hilarious. Some old man acts so high and mighty, but seems his company's administration finally went to pieces. He defaulted on the school fees and received official notification from the school today. If he doesn't pay by the end of this term, I'll be expelled. Really, exemption from school fees is another benefit eroded by the former captain's reforms. Okay, that is stupid, actually, yeah. I'm suddenly, I'm very much on their side, actually. They are essentially what is a fucking scholarship student. So being exempted from just the fees you need to pay in order to attend school, that's a normal thing. Free meals at the cafeteria ceased at the end of last month too. I'm affected too. I just got notification my allowance will be decreased too. Same goes for everyone else here too. Apparently my mom's medical treatment costs a fortune. A gloomy mood fills the room. While Chevalier intentionally raises his voice to break the depressing atmosphere. Like, on one side, I'm kind of on their side now because Mai clearly fucked up with that. But at the same time, none of them fucking spoke up about this shit. So they're also kind of it's kind of also their own fault. Can eat mine. I haven't touched them. Hold on. One of the Chevalier intentionally raises his voice to break the depressing atmosphere. There we go. Mine too. Take my instant miso soup. Mine too. I already said I had most other rice balls, so I have mine. In the blink of an eye, they collect a day's worth of rice balls and miso soup. But the person affected looks conflicted by their goodwill. Stop it, I can't take this sort of stuff. That's why I'm working so hard. Having other people pay me out is just lame. He holds his head tearfully, feeling like he's receiving donations. Mr. Cookie kindly remonstrates how to break the awkward silence.
助け合うことはかっこ悪いことなんかじゃないよ。そもそも騎士団自体が学生同士助け合うことを目的に設立された組織なんだから、助けられたことに負い目を感じるなら、今度は君がいつか誰かを助けてあげればいい。それで帳消しだ。
Not all there is to it. While modest, he still probably wanted to voice his objection to that
そ
question.
んなもんだよ。少なくとも僕はそう思ってる。
He impresses upon him with a stern voice but gentle expression. The other chevaliers all nod in agreement. I mean, how many times have you helped me? Just think of this as me repaying you for those. Yeah, so you don't need to worry. If it bothers you, you can just employ me when you become rich, yeah? I like the sound of that. Things seem pretty dire financially in our family, too, so I count me in on that, too. Just hire all of us. Then you should be company president. You're the smartest one here. Guys. They all create a commotion to break the cold mood. The person who they're trying to console is biting his lip, trying to weigh up if he should be pleased or not.
彼らが改革に反対する本当の理由が分かりましたね。今の会話をもとに学園の資料を改めて調べ直してみました。保守派シュバリエの多くは家庭の経済事情に何らかの問題を抱えているようです。
So now, is that why they're so hung up on it? Bite my own lip and run my hand through my hair in lamentation. Can't find it in me to despise them anymore.
任務に支障をきたしてしまいそうですか?
Nah, it wouldn't.
そろそろ出てきたらどうだい、ミカゲ君。
My heart leaps out of my chest. I look down to see that Chevalier have already departed the office. Mr. Kuki is beckoning me.
出ておいで。大丈夫。悪いようにはしないから。
I reluctantly make my way out of the ventilation shaft. How long ago did you notice I was there?
割と最初からね。君が学園に侵入したあたりからかな。
Impossible. I couldn't have screwed up that badly.
おっと。手の内を明かすバカはいないよ。僕たちは今、名実ともに敵対してるわけだからね。
And the fact you didn't eliminate me is because you wanted me to witness that exchange?
さすがミカゲ君だ。話が早くて助かる。ただ、次からは通気口じゃなく、普通に見学するのをおすすめするよ。顔、汚れてるよ。制服も。肩口なんかクモの巣が引っかかってるじゃないか。
He holds out a handkerchief. Thanks, I'll wash it before returning it.
敵情視察で何か得るものはあったかい？
I didn't get anything. I just saw what you wanted. Was sympathy your strategy? Can't see any other reason for him to show me that it's discussion.
僕はただ、いろんな事情の学生がいるってことを知ってもらいたかっただけだ。
His tone of voice is abruptly becomes stern. I see a sternness like that and of an unmoving patriarch rather than an unapproachable older brother figure.
ミカゲ君はどうして騎士団制度ができたと思う？
I'm pretty sure it was must make the students autonomous. I think something along the lines is written in the order charter as well.
その通り。学生のために学生自身が立ち上がろう。学生同士助け合おう。そんな理念から騎士団制度は生まれたんだ。
And there are many students that will be forced to leave the school, he says with a solemn look.
喧嘩や不祥事じゃないよ。金銭的な負担に耐えられなくて辞めざるを得なかった子が多かったんだ。
$5 million is indeed a pretty high amount. Even a private medical school wouldn't charge that much. That said, the reason is clear. Saying that Academic City is a single large research facility, as its name says, where grand experiments are conducted. In other words, enormous funding is required to maintain the city. Even though there is government and corporate sponsorship, it's clearly not inexhaustible. It's become a familiar sight for researchers to decry national funding for promising research drying up.
それだけの設備と授業内容であることは、卒業生である僕が保証するよ。実際、同級生や先輩後輩、そのほとんどが、いわゆるエリートコースを順調に歩いているからね。
Colossal education fees, the nature of the research city, recommendation to the Advanced Research Institute. Considering the synergistic effects of these, it's easy to see a certain side of it spontaneously. In other words, in exchange for spending huge sums of money, a bright future is promised. A tacit understanding exists in the city. There's nothing unprecedented about Standard Academic City in this regard. That's what the image of the school is to some extent or other. There are a lot of private universities, in particular, that maintain strong ties with their upper and lower levels via their financial donors. The city is the extreme example of that. Of course, the assumption is that it offers an education fitting of that level. It's probably a system that the very rich are grateful for.
最初から分かってたことだろう。なんていう人もいるけどね。
His voice becomes graver and
学
graver.
費がバカ高いことは最初から分かってただろう。払えなくなったら辞めるのが当然だ。 自業自得だ。そんな意見があるのは知ってるよ。でも僕はそういう不寛容さは違うんじゃないかなって思うんだ。
Does that mean they should just get a free ride even if they don't pay the fees? Frankly, I'm on the same page as Mr. Kuki. Even in my home village, the children were considered the village's prized jewels, and it was natural for everyone to support them. However, I'm concentrating on getting him to verbalize his opposing view.
純然とした商売ならそれでいいと思う。でも東華学園は曲がりなりにも教育機関を名乗ってるわけだからね。
Even though it's not compulsory education.
手厳しいね。確かにその通りだ。でもね、現実的に考えてこの現代日本で義務教育のみしか受けてない子がちゃんとした職に就けるのかい？違うって言うならそれはもう制度として破綻してるってことじゃないか。そのしわ寄せが学生に行くのは間違ってる。
Understand what you're trying to say.
シュバリエへの優遇政策は学園に入学する実力がありながら本人以外の都合で通い続けることが困難になった学生への救済措置なんだよ。
This just sounded like Seishiro just straight up interrupted Jin. I don't know why, but my immediate thought is that he just like fucking throws one of his knives into the table. Hey, I have the talking stick right now. I'll give it back to you once I'm done. Okay? Okay. One of you left that curb in the desk from the knife now. Congratulations. No one is to find out that I was here, or I will personally come after you. Okay? Got it? Got it. Okay. And he just takes his knife back and just puts it back in the holster.
何の実績もない学生をただで優遇するわけにはいかないからね。そのためのシュバリエ活動でもあるんだ。少なくとも設立理念はそうだった。そしてその救済措置に救われた学生が大勢いる。僕自身もだ。この学園に通ってる途中で父の会社が倒産してね。でも学費免除の申請が通って上級院にも進学できた。まあ結局落ちこぼれで結果を出せなかった点については申し訳なく思ってるけどね。
Hiding behind his joking tone is a scathing derision of himself.
だからシュバリエへの優遇措置を全て排除するのは教師としての立場からも反対だ。そもそも無駄は余裕でもあるんだよ。そこから新しい何かが生まれることだってある。
It could also turn to a hotbed of evil.
蛇は卵のうちに殺すのかい？それが蓮城寺さんのやり方なのかい？そうだとするならやはり君たちのやり方に賛同はできない。蛇がどう育つかは最後までわからないんだから。
There are indeed cultures that worship snakes as sacred beings, while others see them as evil incarnate. His eyes light up in surprise at me agreeing with him.
その通りだ。だからこそ君たちのやり方を黙って見過ごせない。剣闘祭で優勝し二つ名の影響力で改革を推し進めようとしてるみたいだけど、そうはさせないよ。君たちの野望は僕が阻止してみせる。学生のためにね。
He says that with the resoluteness of a knight in a fairy tale declaring he'll protect the princess. Both valor and chivalrous spirit gleam in his eyes, but something else grabs my attention. Where'd you hear that? He hasn't even applied to compete in the combat festival yet. Not to speak of what only a small group of chevaliers know. Those chevaliers are under strict orders to remain silent to prevent the strategy being sabotaged as well. And yet, here Mr. Kuki is with a clear grasp of our intentions.
そういう噂があってね。だから鎌をかけさせてもらったんだ。どうやら本当らしいね。
Rumor. My suspicions suddenly intensify. From the way he's been speaking thus far, I can tell that he is sincere. I didn't expect him to ask a leading question using a rumor, though. I should be conscious that he has a source of accurate information. That he has a source of accurate information. In other words, it's highly likely that a spy has slipped into our ranks. I think of all the Reformation members in my head, but I can't think of anyone suspicious. Or perhaps he really just was asking a really leading question. Surely there isn't a connection to the bat here, is there? Manipulating things from the shadows and skillfully hiding your existence invites suspicion. But why would he do that? To appeal to Mr. Cookie's sense of righteousness as he did with Alfred and cause a commotion in the school. At least Mr. Cookie himself is the bat. I can think of it, being a teacher and former chevalier put him in a position to incite Alfred. That's not too far of a stretch. I shook my head at that thought. There'd be no end in sight if I gave in to suspicion. Didn't come here to get answers in the first place. I'm better off watching than trying to forcefully come up with a conclusion.
話は終わりだ。時間も時間だし、今日はこれで終わりにしよう。
Mr. Cookie, can I ask one thing? It's an incredibly rude question, though. He silently prompts me to continue, and I look him straight in the eye and ask, what would you do if there was a way you could continue working as a researcher even now? Using fair means, of course. He doesn't respond immediately. He scratches his head, looking conflicted. He then lets out a sigh with a sardonic
君は
smile.
本当に学生なのかな。言葉がいちいち鋭すぎるよ。
he really just sat there like, are you sure you're a student? Because by God, every single one of your words is like a knife in the fucking chest. Jesus Christ. What kind of a little bastard are you? I hear that a lot. Apologies. I apologize if I offended you.
いや、平気といえば嘘になるけど、学生からの質問だ。教師として誠実に答えよう。本当にしたいことがあって、チャンスがあるなら、全力で掴みに行け。少なくとも、学生にはそうアドバイスするかな。
He acknowledges a lingering regret for what could have been, and this time he smiles bitterly. Sorry for being an annoying student.
君が僕を嫌ってないのは分かってる。教師としては、それで十分さ。
That doesn't stop him from turning his back to me. Seems like he's rejecting any further discussion. Hit quite a sore spot, apparently.
もう帰って寝るんだ。明日も遅刻しないようにね。
I nod as we leave the room. Mr. Cookie locks the door and walks off. I find myself unable to leave that spot until I hear his footsteps fade into the silence. Finally make it back to my dorm at about midnight and sigh. I'm not sure if I'm relieved or exhausted. I was thinking all the way back here, abandoned, underprivileged, or share the burden among everyone else. The proposal Mr. Cookie thrust upon me was a huge problem in the eyes of a mere ninja.
あまり思い詰めないでください。
Yeah.
遅かったわね。
I was expecting this. Ah, my! That's a startling yelp. Her expression has a mixture of displeasure and concern and anger, and she stands there imposingly with her hands on her hips. What's up? Why you had to talk like this? And why you look dressed so fine? Jesus Christ, that's a very nice outfit.
その驚き方。何か悪いことしてきたわね、ジン君。
What do you mean?
君に用があって部屋に行ったらいないんだもん。誰に聞いても放課後から見てないって言うし、だから帰ってきたらすぐわかるようにここで待ってたのよ。
Been here all the time?
まあ勉強したり読書したりしながらだけどね。
She does actually have textbooks and reference materials spread out on the table, which means it doesn't look like she was hiding from me or trying to surprise me. And yeah, I didn't notice her. Must have been seriously preoccupied.
おまけに帰ってきたら帰ってきたで深刻そうな顔してこっちに気づきもしないし。何？
Oops. Nah, nothing much. I just had something on my
考
mind.
え事ね。
She doesn't spend long looking at me suspiciously, but her expression soon relaxes and she grabs my hands.
まあ無事に帰ってきてくれただけでもよしとするわ。
What's that supposed to mean? You make it sound like you expect me not to not return.
私の気のせいだと思うけど、ジン君って急にいなくなっちゃいそうな危うさがあるのよね。
She looks slightly distressed with a hint of concern in her voice. It's the fate of a ninja to go off somewhere if a mission demands it. I just happen to be going to the Toka Academy at the moment. But what will happen when this incident is resolved? I don't even know if I'll be able to say my farewells to Mai and the others. It's a incredibly tragic line of work.
やだ、否定してよ。どうしてそこで黙っちゃうの？余計に不安になるじゃない。
Sorry, it's not that, just the thing on my mind. I actually try to cover up, but it's too late. My eyebrows frown in unease. Don't worry, I won't suddenly disappear. I really just had something on my mind.
だとしたらよほど深刻な悩みなのね。
Yeah, well, it's like, how do I put this? With Cookie's words and behavior of the conservative begins churning over in my head again. Conflicted about whether I should tell her or not, and the words won't come out. I stand by my indecision, and Mai abruptly speaks in a curt
ももかちゃん
tone.
はい
Mocha responds
スリ
unexpectedly.
ープモードいいって言うまで起きちゃダメよ。はいスリープモード
Momoka falls silent. Huh? Why did Momoka respond to someone else's command? Huh? What's going on? I'm completely shocked, and she drags me by the
そん
hand.
なこといいからちょっとこっちに来て。
Huh? Mai?
ほら入って入って遠慮しなくていいから。
She took me to her room. What? Are you sure? Look at what time it is. If someone finds out I was in the girl's room at this time of night, I'd be in heaps of trouble.
バレなきゃいいのよバレなきゃ。
She laughs with that outrageous response. Just how daring is she? I feel butterflies in my stomach after being brought unexpectedly to my girlfriend's room. So this is Maya's room. It's decorated with trinkets and pictures, but they're complimentary. There are a lot of items, but it looks tidy because everything's so neatly arranged. I find it oddly comforting to know how closely it matches her personality. Not to mention the peach-like smell filling the room. It's Maya's aroma. You know, that kind of makes me sound like a degenerate.
はいじゃあ
I'm wondering what she means as I see her kneeling in the middle of the room and tapping her thighs. Huh? What do you mean?
いいから エッチってやっぱり気持ちいいわね。
Her smooth cheeks smile happily and she wraps her arms around
疲
me.
れちゃうのが唯一の難点よね。何百回だって抱かれたいくらいなのに。
There's no way I'd be able to keep up with that physically. A smile wryly and her eyelashes droop
で
similarly.
も今回みたいなのもまたやりたいわ。だって赤ちゃんのジンくんもうこのまま私が育てるってくらい可愛かったんだもの。
Nah. 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 She's apparently more lustful and ravenous for sex than I imagined. Perhaps she wasn't planning on doing something sexual when she put Momoka to sleep mode. I feel conflicted, being both happy and frightened by the development. She looks upward at me to ask a question.
それで少しは気が晴れたかしら。
Yeah, but that doesn't mean my worries have completely disappeared. She smiles, looking relieved.
それでいいのよ。思い詰めて結論が出せないなら気分転換してから改めて向かい合えばいいの。その方がいいアイディアが出たりもするからね。それでダメなら誰かに相談するのも手だと思うけどね。
I know she's simply trying to say she wants to help me, but I can't decide whether I should tell her or not. I look up without giving a response and see a mixture of unease and despair in her eyes. It's not directed at me, she's probably dismayed at how helpless she feels. So while not necessarily as a result of that, after mulling it over, I decide to tell her. It's not something I can find an answer for myself. Actually, what happened is I ran into Mr. Cookie. She's shocked, but sadly prompts me to continue.
そっか。騎士団の優遇措置ってそんな面があったんだ。
She bites her lip after I explain, running her hand through her long hair. Her slender eyebrows are knotted in angst. Her troubled expression instantly dispels the sweet atmosphere we had just a moment ago.
言われてみれば食事とか授業料の免除が多かったものね。
They can't unconditionally give preferential treatment to the students, and apparently that's where the night activities come in. She probably didn't even hear my explanation. She hangs her head introspectively and stares into space with a scowl on her face.
連城寺さんのような恵まれた人生を送ってきた子は僕たちのような人間の気持ちはわからないと思うんだ。
She says that in a crushing voice. Their words, Mr. Kuki once
あ
said.
のセリフってそういうことだったのね。
A look of nail-biting anger rises to her pale white
ク
cheeks.
キ先生や改革に反対する騎士たちがそう言いたくなるのもわかるわ。
She says that in vain rather than self-deprecatingly. There are an awful lot of people who think of you as the rich daughter of a financial conglomerate.
財閥なんてとっくの昔に解体されてるんだけどね。
This time, there is a self-deprecation in her
ゲ
voice.
ームやアニメなんかで簡単に財閥のご令嬢が出てくるけど、めぼしいところは GHQ が解体しちゃってるからね。うちだってその時にやられたのよ。蓮城寺の名前が使えるようになったのも戦争が終わって40年以上経ってからだったんだから。
She says that almost as if blaming someone in particular. She's probably been teased about it countless times by now. It's sad that Enjoji Group is famous for reuniting and trying to return to its former conglomerate state. The 5 areas of credit, manufacturing, chemistry, real estate, and distribution have already been combined by the former
とは
president.
いえ、確かにうちのおじいちゃんは蓮城寺グループの元会長だし、そう見られてもしょうがない。実際お金で苦労した経験なんてないわけだしね。この学園に来てからだってお金持ちの家庭ばかりだから、そういうの確かに考えから抜けてたわ。お母さんに蓮城寺家の人間と世間一般では金銭感覚が違うってあれだけ言われてたのに。
Sarcasm, regret, disappointment, reverence, hints of countless emotions come over her face.
私のしてきたことって間違ってたのかしら。
That was more of a monologue than a
で
question.
もあのままだったらシュバリエの仕事は間違いなくめちゃくちゃになってたわ。それに特権だって経済的に困窮するシュバリエだけに与えられてたわけじゃないもの。申請すれば私だって同じ優遇を受けられたのよ。
If it were limited to the struggling students, it would be advertising that their family was poor. I doubt such a proud bunch of people would obediently accept that. I think one of the aims was to support them without making them feel inferior. I even recall the Chevalier reluctant to accept being offered rice balls. Of course, it's easy to dismiss that as just egoism. I can imagine them having the opinion that they could put up with any amount of hunger since they chose to do so themselves. But everyone has something they won't accept. They're not emotionless puppets. It's to be expected that everyone has weaknesses they don't want their peers to see. At the same time, I can agree with the notion that it's the responsibility of an educational institution to grant academic freedom to talented students. There are aspects of each viewpoint I can agree with, and I can't see that any single alternative is the best.
だからって放っておけば財政破綻はすぐそこよ。そうならないために学費を上げればそれこそ無関係な学生にしわ寄せがいくわ。余計に学費が払えなくなる学生が増えると思わない？
Should that be called mutual aid or oppression of the privileged? She bites her lips silently. In the end, she sighs with an almost bitter
いずれ
smile.
にしてもすぐに答えが出ることじゃないわ。しばらく考えてみるわね。
If you can't find a resolution to what's troubling you, then you just need a change of pace so you can tackle it with a fresh frame of mind. She intentionally speaks in a lighter tone of voice to put into action what she said herself earlier. Sorry, wish I hadn't said something that dulled your resolve.
とても大事なことよ。教えてくれてよかったわ。ただ難しい問題なのは間違いないわね。
However, our angst did not last long. The next morning.
ジンくん、マイさん、待ってましたよ。こっち来てください。
Ah, Canon!
カノンちゃん、いきなりどうしたの？ダメよ、服引っ張らないで。いいから、大変なんです。大変なんです。わかったから、落ち着いて。スカート掴んでる。めくれるから。
She forcefully drags us to the Order of Knights office. It's already a familiar group of faces gathered here. The members of the Order and of course Amanamori, Shirogane, and even Mr. Kuki. They're all standing there with grim expressions.
みんな揃って どうしたのかしら？
少々厄介なことになったんです。
We can't just act on our own. That's why we've been waiting for you to come, Renjoji. Even the conservative faction Chevalier, who despises Mai, is reverent. Realizing there's no time for jokes, she nods and prompts them to continue. Mr. Cookie hands her an A4 sized sheet of paper.
今朝騎士団室に置かれてたんだ。
Cancel the combat festival unless you want the arena to be blown up! Hold on, I feel like I just accidentally set that like Sonic from a fucking Sonic Adventure 2 cutscene. Hold on. Yeah.
Blows up.
Yeah, there we go. Wasn't even intentional. Whoopsie. It's been a week since the threatening letter was sent. The school has been in a state of unrest ever since then. The order members had the combat festival, and the regular students also had their exam period after that, so they were all preparing for them. The combat festival was not postponed. It's some kind of joke! It'd be ridiculous to postpone the combat festival! The first one to explode was the conservative Chevalier. Then the rest of the Chevalier, respective of their faction, voiced their agreement. Absolutely. Why would we suspend it over a silly scrap of paper? If we yield to some suspicious threatening letter from an unknown source, this is what would really bring dishonor to the Chevalier.
でも爆破って書いてありますよ。もし本当にそんなことされたら大変なことになるんじゃ。検討祭は一般客や来賓も多いですし、安全面を考えるなら少し慎重に考えた方がいいんじゃないですか。
No, we absolutely must not suspend it. This is a challenge against the
で
order.
も怪我人が出た場合は騎士団の権威も失墜すれば、それは分かってるのかしら。
僕もあまり無茶はしない方がいいと思うんだけど。
ちょっと待ってってば、みんな落ち着いて。
Mai hastily interrupts the debate as it quickly devolves into
こっ
chaos.
ちは今来たばかりで事情がよく飲み込めてないの。どういうことなのか誰か詳しく説明してくれないかしら。
The order members then explained the situation. Having said that, there's little they know. Apparently, when they came to the office this morning, that threatening letter was sitting on the desk. Given the nature of the message, neither of the factions could make a judgment call on it, so they waited for all involved parties to arrive.
なるほど。それでこの脅迫状は誰が見つけたのかしら。
I did. The Rice Bowl Chevalier raised his hand. Of course, that's what I decided to call him. He was the Chevalier who was conflicted about everyone giving him their rice balls.
どうして朝から騎士団室に？
Need the guest list to prepare for the combat festival. It's my responsibility to send them their invitations.
昨夜は何もなかったよ。それは僕が確認してる。
Even I know that. Cookie and I were here after all, the last ones to leave the place last night.
鍵だってかけたし。忍者でもない限りは忍び込めない。
Don't just fucking I honest God, it would actually be hilarious if just in a mode of weakness, he just fucking points at him. Don't just blame me for this. Of course, I didn't sneak into the room, and I can't imagine anyone else capable of doing
つま
so.
り現場は朝まで密室だったわけね。はい。なのに脅迫状が置かれてたなんて気味が悪いです。
Mai puts her hand on her chin and walks around. Everyone watches her as she paces back and forth repeatedly, then raises her head when something finally comes to her mind.
密室。いい響きよね。現場は密室だったのねって人生で一度言ってみたかったのよ。
Everyone sighs in exasperation. Mai, I don't think this is the time for jokes.
そう ですよ、舞さん。なんで急にボケるんですか？
今は真面目な話をしてる途中なんです。そういう冗談は控えてください。
Also note that no one has commented on the fact that he calls her Mai yet.
だって何とも言えないんだもん。これだけだと脅迫状が本気かどうかも判断できないしね。
After waving it around the air, she curls it up and tosses it into the trash. Should she be doing that? Wouldn't that serve as evidence to the police?
これを見つけたのは君だったわよね。
Yes, that's right. She puts her hand on his shoulder and the rice ball chevalier
君
flinches.
はどう思う？脅迫状本気だと思う？それとも愉快犯の仕業だと思う？
Huh? What do I think? Well, he stammers, trying to avoid responding immediately. After remaining silent for a bit, he eventually squeezes out his opinion. Felt the same way you do. We can't tell from just this if it's
じゃ
real.
あ仮に脅迫が本当だったとしてそれでもやるべきだと思う？
Her counter question has a slight but unusual force to it. It doesn't appear that anyone else has noticed, but her expression is tainted with disquiet. There must be something that's caught her attention. There's something we need to consult the rest of the Chevalier on.
そうね。だからこそまずは君の意見を聞かせて。開催するべきだと思う？中止すべきだと思う？
Sounds like he's struggling for breath from her consecutive questions. The room was silent for almost a minute before he eventually squeezed out a response. I want the combat festival to be a success. It's the most suspicious event for the Chevalier in the calendar. He's right! The others voiced their agreement vehemently. There's a challenge to the Chevalier to try to make us cancel the festival and lose face. We can't let that happen. We have to get the better of or whatever creep sent this nonsense and make it a success.
待ってくれ。教師としての立場から言うならもう少し慎重に検討するべきだ。怪我人が出てからじゃ遅いんだから。
すみませんけど先生、これはシュバリエの問題ですのでシュバリエだけで決議させてください。
いやしかし顧問としてもそう簡単。
私も開催するのに賛成です。
Aminamori advised caution earlier, but interrupts uncharacteristically.
普通こういうのって自己正当性を主張するか何かしらの要求をしてくるもんですよね。学園の風紀を正すためだとかテストを中止しろとか。なのにそれがないってことはいたずらの可能性が高いと思います。あ、そうかも。私もそう思います。だったら検討祭の開催に賛成です。
Aminamori's viewpoint seems to have been the final nail in the coffin as the rest of the Chevalier all voiced their agreement one by one. The only one against it in the end is Mr.
じゃ
Kuki.
あ決まりね。検討祭は例年通り行うこととします。とはいえ久喜先生の心配ももっともだからいつも以上に警備体制を強化しないとね。
I think I can help on that front. Guarding and security are my specialties.
ありがとうジン君、期待するわ。他には君にはこっちの仕事を頼めないかしら。
She proceeds to assign people to their various roles. I hear Momoka talk through my bone conduction earphone.
さすがですね。さりげなく団長としてのポジションに収まっています。
Sound like she was removed from office for incompetence in the first place. If she can calm the situation down well, then it'll make it easier to enact out her strategy as
ピン
well.
チをチャンスに変えるってこういうことを言うんでしょうね。
Cancelling the festival would equally encumber both the conservative and reformist factions. I don't see any reason they would object. Nevertheless, if my skillful handling was taken as self-righteousness on her part, it may incite resistance. No one can doubt her ability to consider each person's motivations and talents and brilliantly command them. And thus it was decided the combat festival would go ahead with an unprecedented level of caution. To be frank, it's gotta be tough maintaining a quantity and quality of work I've never seen before. And yet, not a single person is objecting it. The school is brimming with energy. It's likely that the birth of a common enemy reunited the order, which was on the brink of dissolution. I'm not sure if I should see it as a good thing or not. At the very end, the work is proceeding smoothly, and their preparation looks to finish ahead of schedule. Don't use hard.
やっぱり装備ありで訓練すると雰囲気が出るわね。
She looks down at her attire as she wipes the sweat off her brow. She's right. Being adorned in full mail certainly makes her seem much more dignified. She'll be fighting wearing this armor during the combat festival. Today is a dress rehearsal for the event, and the contestants and the arena have been free to prepare themselves.
って言ってもこの甲冑は AR なんだけどね。おかげで軽くて助かるわ。
Technology never ceases to amaze me. How does it have the ability to create true to life images out of thin air?
ここにその技術よりすごい私がいるのをお忘れなく。
Of course, I'd never forget. Just think of this as impressive in a different way. It even imitates damage when it's struck. It feels so
個
futuristic.
人的には武器が当たっても痛くないようにする技術を先に開発してほしいけど
Well,
ね。
that would have been easy if they just decided not to use actual weapons, but also use simulated weapons where the machine automatically causes a signal if a hit would be lethal or something like that. Because then it would actually be a fight like, yes, person has their weapon knocked out of the hand and has to give up or something like that. Wouldn't happen anymore. And the whole, it needs to be the weapon fighting would also help. Of course, it would make things like grappling a weapon harder, but yeah, there's no good solution here. Calling when I saw all the bruises, I smiled, thinking she's absolutely right.
それでどうだったかしら。私の動きおかしいところはなかった？
You're moving well at this rate. You'll have a better than 50% chance against Mr. Cookie.
あれだけ特訓したのに五分五分以上か。これでも結構な努力をしたつもりなんだけど、それでもその程度なのね。
Of course, the world isn't so simple. It'll just work out if you put in effort. Thought I said something perfectly reasonable, but that makes her frown sullenly. Her lips tense up for a few seconds in
努
silence.
力が叶わないとしたら、人って何のために努力をするのかしら。
Because it's still required. Again, answer with what I think is obvious. At least that's what, or at least what was passed on by my ancestors. In life, there are things you have to do irrespective of effort, talent, and ability. Plus, they appear when you least expect them. That's why you just have to be prepared at all times for when they unexpectedly crop
備
up.
えてて、それでもダメだったらどうするの？
Depends on the situation, but I guess you try to minimize the amount of harm. The fewer injuries, the better. It's pointless to worry about it afterwards if you're mortally wounded. Us rank-and-file ninja just do our utmost, and even if it fails, we retreat as quickly as possible. That's all there is to it. She falls silent again and puts her hand to her chin before hanging her head. Then she just laughs it off.
ジン君って時々簡単に現実を突きつけてくるわよね。それもとても冷めた現実を。
Huh? Did I say something that unusual? She shakes her head, making her hair flutter in waves.
とってもジン君らしいって思っただけ。そうよね。努力なんて関係なしにやらなきゃいけないことはやらなきゃいけないんだもんね。うん。今の言葉でやる気出てきたわ。不安は消えないけど、そうよね。やらなきゃいけないことだもんね。
No one can compete with you when it comes to just how much effort you've put in, though. I mean, even with administrative work, did you end up commanding them as the order captain?
あんな脅迫文が届いてみんな殺気立ってるからね。誰かが騎士団をまとめないと。それこそやらなきゃいけないことをしてるだけよ。
Yes, but even with the retraining for the festival, everyone would acknowledge your effort there. Aren't you tired?
平気って言いたいところだけど、さすがに疲れちゃったかも。
Let's take a break today. The main event is approaching
そ
too.
れはもちろんそうなんだけど。
She wants to fug. She unexpectedly grabs my hand. I don't even get a chance to think about that before she embraces my sweaty, steamy body.
癒しの方が欲しいかな。それも濃厚でぐっすり眠れるような癒しが。
What are you... What? Ah! And they fuck. Jesus Christ, these H scenes are rapid fire. I pull away from her in a fluster. I gather my scattered clothes and hastily get dressed. I can hear her cackle, but can't look her directly in the eyes. She speaks at a tender voice as she gets dressed.
おいおい慣れていきましょう。ね、ジン君。
Sorry. She probably resumed using the more formal address out of consideration for me. And it's one. That's one. This is one thing that was drilled into me from a young age. It's not something I can change so readily. Though I'm shocked I called her Mai, even if I was coming at the time. Jesus Christ. But anyway, how the water activities going? Has there been any trouble since? Can't handle the tensions. I change the topic and turn around. She lightly nods and gives me an exaggerated thumbs
も
up.
うバッチリよ。私が団長になって以来、これだけみんなが団結したのは初めてね。おかげで検討祭の準備も今までで一番スムーズに進んでるわ。まあ共通の敵がいないと団結できなかったって点はむしろ反省点ではあるんだけどね。
She puts on a bit of smile that almost amounts to a scowl.
私に団長としての器がなかったんだわ。自分の考えだけが正しいって思い込んで解任騒動まで起こって。
Badly consoling her, which conversely hurt her, so I nod
先
silently.
生の主張にも答えは出せてないし、つくづく自分が嫌になるわ。
There isn't just one side to righteousness. There's nothing wrong with not knowing.
本当ね。世の中わからないことだらけだわ。
She puts on a troubled smile, but I don't try to stop her thoughts. She rests her chin on one hand and twirls her hair with her other hand as she glares at something invisible. Speaking of unknowns, we still have no idea why they went out of their way to put that threatening letter in a locked room. Why did they need to go to that effort? Just posting it on a regular way would be more than enough to serve as a threat. If anything, posting it in a conspicuous location would have caused much larger upheaval. I could sense the bad in its disturbance and have been on guard. And yet here we are with a sequence of events that aren't his modus operandi. Up until now, he's just targeted people with a higher social profile and used mob justice against criminals. Chevalier do have a reasonable amount of status in the school. So is that enough for the bat to target them? It's not that unusual for them to dish out the hammer of justice for an order that is constantly infighting. Is it not that unusual for them to dish out the hammer of justice for an order that's constantly infighting? It's riddled with unknowns. As we've been so busy, the days fly by. The whole school is worked up. The order members are determined to make the festival a success, and the regular students are frantically abuzz about the festival and the tests that come immediately after it. Only the Chevalier teachers and a small portion of students, namely Kanon and Amanamori, know about the threatening letter. There were strict orders from teachers and board of directors to put strategies in place to minimize the disturbance caused by it. To be honest, there's an ill-conceived strategy from a safety point of view. The safest course of action would be to cancel the festival. That would be the most effective method, bar none. If they were still determined to hold the event, they should inform all the participants of the incident and make everyone be security conscious whether they're attending or not. But the teaching group was concerned about the reputation of the school and refused such an approach. Apparently, irrespective of where they are in the world, you can't escape recklessness and misunderstanding from above. As a result, I was appointed the task of being in charge of security on an unprecedented state of alert. Even Mr. Kuki diligently fulfilled his duty as advisor now that it has been decided. Above all, Mai adeptly used her commanding skills to distribute people in a perfect demonstration of how to put the right person in the right place and weathered the crisis. As a result, despite inadequate staff, the preparation proceeded smoothly, and before you knew it, the festival was the following day. And I'll actually end it here. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, and see you next time. Bye-bye.